What's up, everybody? It's your buddy JB back here with you. I want to share a special event that we just had this past Saturday. We hosted our first $1 million download, the $1 million download. And during the $1 million download event, we actually brought in $3 million producers and interviewed them in one of our locations and had question and answer from people in the crowd, and I actually facilitated the interview. And I thought it'd be really valuable for me to kind of share some highlights from this event, because the nuggets of wisdom that came out of this event were incredible. We had an incredible sales day afterwards, and I'm just sensing a lot of momentum coming out of this event. So I just kind of want to share it with my crowd here and share the questions and some of the answers we got. So one of the questions that we asked: when I observe you, I notice that you never seem to be off in the periphery or in what we call the twilight zone. You seem to always be engaged with your guests. What do you do, to the $1 Million Writer? What do you do specifically to get engaged and stay engaged? And one of the $1 Million Writers, she spoke right up. She said, I make them need me. I express to them that there are incentives throughout the store. I express to them that the price you see on the tag may not be the final price. I express to them that I'm a professional, that I know lots of details, and that makes them need me. The last thing I want to do is teach them how to self-shop. I'm not going to say, oh yeah, just turn the label around and read this, this, and this. I'm not going to teach them how to self-shop. I need them to need me. Another one said, I make sure I come across like an expert, a true professional, not only in how I dress, but also in being factual and knowing things. Like, I'm going to know my measurements for queen mattresses, king beds, queen beds. I'm going to know standard measurements for doorways and things of that nature. That way I come across like an expert who can add value. If you're just sitting there waiting to take orders, you add no value. But if you're somebody who is savvy about the measurements and the knowledge necessary for our industry, then customers quickly can discern that they need you, that you can add value. The third person said, I become a person very quickly. I become relatable beyond the store by connecting with the guest personally and finding common ground. Without making it about me as a salesperson, I find a way to help them see me as a mother, a daughter, a son, a father, a golfer, whatever it is. I want to kind of humanize myself so that they see me as a person first and a sales professional second. I thought that was some great advice. And so I asked them also, I said, well, what's the difference between you, since you're good at getting engaged, what's the difference between you and those the habits of your peers who often find themselves not engaged? And the number one answer there that everybody agreed on is that most of the peers don't listen to listen, they listen to respond. Those who find themselves off in the periphery are not asking good questions and staying engaged because they're listening to respond, to talk at customers, as opposed to listening to listen, to fully understand their needs. I thought that was incredible advice. Again, all of this came directly from $1 Million top producers, not from me. The second question that came up was, for top producers such as yourself, there's a level of consistency being the operative word here, to your performance that only seems to oscillate between, $90,000 a month, $120,000 a month. They stay in that range, $150,000 a month. How have you been able to maintain such consistent production? Number one answer: stick to a selling system. This doesn't mean that we have to be robots, but there is a selling system of greet, discover, solve, close, follow up. And then each of those is broken down into other systems. But the unanimous answer for these $1 Million producers is that you must have a system. Without a consistent system, you do not have consistent outcomes. Consistent inputs lead to consistent outputs. Pretty simple stuff here, but great to hear them reinforce that. The next way they said that they get consistent results is managing their internal state. $1 Million Writer uses deep breathing and meditation actually to prepare for each up whenever possible. In doing so, he found that he had greater clarity and awareness to respond to his questions, the customer's questions, and his or her nonverbal cues. He was more attentive and aware and able to move with greater agility to process that information because he was so clear because of that meditation and that breathing and managing that internal state. Another person said, a high level of personal responsibility is what drives their consistency. Meaning after any up that they don't close, they're always asking themselves, what could I have done differently? They observe in their peers will often be, will always point to external factors that are beyond their control. The non-million dollar business owners, the RSAs, if you will, they always are pointing at factors beyond their control. They're seeing themselves as helpless, whereas the business owner, the $1 Million Writer, is always asking, what could I have done differently? If faced with that again, how could I have handled it differently? They're even going to other peers who they respect that are $1 Million Writers and saying, how would you handle this? They're coming to me and asking that because they are obsessed with getting better and taking a high level of personal responsibility to get better. Wow, that was priceless advice, no doubt. We followed up on that question and said, for those peers of yours that you see as inconsistent and have incredibly high volume one month, low volume the next, and there's just no predictable pattern to their sales revenue, what habits do you observe in those people? And number one answer was those who are inconsistent are generally distracted by things outside of work. They need to learn to be fully present with their guests. They need to be in the moment at all times. I said, wow, that is fantastic advice. Being fully present, not distracted, not divided, all there. What great advice, not only for work, but for our families. Anywhere you are, be all there. This is not just advice from Justin. These are the $1 Million producers themselves telling you that this is how to produce. Another answer we received in regards to the habits of those who are inconsistent is that they don't treat every guest with the same consistent high level of performance. They don't give each guest the same consistent level of service. And the example would be this. That customer that's in for the $199 promo recliner, that guest gets the same high level of service, passion, and energy from a $1 Million producer as does the person who's in for the whole home of furniture. There is no distinction between the two guests. That $1 Million producer obsesses over just serving them and meeting all their needs. And that's how the $199 customer ends up buying that Beautyrest Black power base and mattress combination. That's how they end up buying the Tempur-Pedic, because the $1 Million Writer obsesses over serving that guest and meeting all of his or her furniture needs. Another answer as to why some peers are inconsistent is that they treat it like a clock in, clock out job. Let me repeat that. They treat it like a clock in, clock out job. The $1 Million producers all agreed that this is not a clock in, clock out job, that follow-up should be happening around the clock, that in-home appointments should be happening on the days off. Let me repeat that. In-home appointments happen on days off, and as a result, those people are creating huge average tickets because that in-home average ticket is significantly greater than that of an in-store average ticket. But it is not a clock in, clock out job for a $1 Million business owner. It is a lifestyle. It is part of who they are. It's an extension. It's something they're proud of. And that's what it means to be an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs have passion in what they do, and it's an extension of themselves, that level of service and care that they give each guest. And then finally, when it comes to those who are inconsistent versus those who are consistent, the consistent producers obsessively study product, study trends, study their competition. They're experts on paint colors. They know the color of the season, the color of the year. They're up on home trends. They have apps like Houzz.com. Whereas the inconsistent person kind of just sits and hopes. They think they can rely on their charisma. They don't really study. They don't know their competition really well. They don't understand how their product, they haven't reinforced the belief that their product, their solution is the very best value in the marketplace. And so they lack that passion and belief in what they present because they themselves haven't taken time to educate and indoctrinate themselves so that they have that unreasonable belief. And so $1 million business owners, the consistent ones that don't have the wild oscillations, they study product, they study competition, they know what's going on in the industry, and their peers who enjoy a more average or mediocre level of success, they just simply don't. Another question that came up, which I thought was an incredible question, is what advice do you have for managers who are charged with the task of leading up more $1 million business owners? What advice do you have for managers? And I love this because the managers, the business coaches, the business consultants, if you will, that are here to help us build up people and lead people up, man, they have a high degree of responsibility when it comes to making a difference. And so here's some of the feedback we got. Number one answer, lead from love. Not from manipulation or selfishness. Lead from love. How you feel about the people shows in how you speak to them and connect to them. People can tell if they are just a means to an end. People can tell if they're a means to an end. Lead from love. Wow, great advice. Second answer, assume positive intent, managers. Don't just assume that there's a sinister motive. Get all of the information prior to reaching a judgment. Don't come at the situation from a place of judgment until you have all of the information. Wow, great counsel. Number three, make coaching a priority. Those who desire to lead up $1 million business owners, make coaching a priority. Spending time with the team shows them that you care. Spending that one-on-one time shows them that you care. Don't just check it off a list. Don't just try to get it done for the sake of getting it done. Don't trade connectivity for productivity. Don't trade connectivity for productivity, right? We have things we have to get done, but coaching is not something we can rush through. It has to be a time of connection, and those who lead from love prioritize coaching and connection. Another answer that came up, the team craves information. If you want to lead up $1 million writers, you have to feed them information. They want to know how every facet of the organization works so that they can better navigate obstacles. They crave expertise, which means a manager must themselves be an expert. Let me say that again. If they crave expertise, the manager must be an expert. The manager must be a continual learner. Listen, an unteachable leader will become the chokehold on any sales team. An unteachable leader, a leader who's not a continual learner, a leader who's incompetent and has no desire to help pick themselves up by the bootstraps and drill themselves and allow someone to coach them candidly. An unteachable leader is the chokehold, is the limiting factor on any sales team. Be teachable if you want any hope of leading up other incredible producers. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. One of my favorite questions that came up after this. What is your go-to dialogue that has served you well in your career? The one statement or question that you find yourself consistently relying upon. Number one, I love this one. Let's build a wish list. Let's build a wish list. In this particular example, let's say a customer comes in and is like, yeah, I'm just looking, or I'm building a house, or I'm not ready yet. This particular $1 billion business owner would say, well, that's great. Let's take our time and let's build a wish list. If you could create the home of your dreams, let's put everything on the list that you could possibly ever want, exactly how you want it, and that way you can kind of have a wish list from which you can dream. Now, which room would you like to begin with? Which room makes you most excited? Do you see how she flows into that? So she takes that customer that's giving resistance or giving a reason why they can't buy and helping to move them one step closer to a sale by getting things on paper, right? Because if it isn't written, it isn't real. So much overlap here between this and your SLAM training. It's incredible. And so she builds that wish list. Even that customer that's on a budget and says, well, I'm only here to shop for this today. She'll be like, okay, well, great. Let's go ahead and handle that need. But while you're here, let's go ahead and build your wish list. And then she'll end up with the mattress and everything else. And before long, she's turned that into an option to say, well, what if I told you could get this whole wish list satisfied today for $130 a month? Would that be something you'd be interested in? And she turns it into an ask to increase the ticket and does an incredible, incredible job. Let's Build a Wish List has served her well. Another one of the $1 Million Business Owners uses this dialogue of, I'm here to offer any level of service you choose. I can be involved. I can be as involved as little or as much as you want. For some clients, I help them in the store. For others, they invite me to their home to help curate custom home design plans. Any level of service you desire, that's what I'll provide. She uses this early in the conversation, and it kind of helps the customer recognize that they're in control. And it also plants the seed that in-home appointments are important to her. This particular person does more in-home appointments than anyone else on the team, and as a result has the highest volume of any of our stores. And a lot of that is because of her in-home appointments and her obsessive follow-up. But that dialogue of, I can offer you any level of service you choose. I can be involved as little or as much as you want, and then roll that into letting them know about in-home versus in-store. And it's just terrific. It's just terrific to watch that work. Another $1 Million Business Owner, when asked the same question about what dialogue has served him well, he actually says it's not so much dialogue, it is a principle, and that is speak to the truth. So for example, that customer that comes in, and this sounds radical, but I have to admit I've seen it work and it's pretty incredible. That customer that comes in and says, oh, I'm just looking. He would actually say, so you're saying you would rather just shop alone and not have me bother you? No problem, I understand, and I'm here to contribute as little or as much assistance as you need. So instead of just believing that they're here just to look, which they're not, they didn't drive to a furniture store in the day and age where everyone has pre-shopped online to just look. That's not true. Don't lie to yourself and believe that. But he would say, he just turns it into making sure he responds to what they're really saying. So what you're saying is you'd rather shop alone and not have me bother you. He's speaking to the truth. And instantly when he says that, you watch the resistance just fall down. Not everybody could get away with this. He's incredibly EQ, emotionally intelligent. But for those of you who are, possibly a technique there. Wow. So another great question that came up. This one is from the heart. And it kind of went this way. Each of these people that we interviewed, they have great hearts for their team. And so when asked, you know, when they think of that person on their team that they're very close with, but maybe that person is struggling, maybe that person doesn't have a consistent level of success like the $1 Million Business Owner, what message do they have for that person? If they could shake that person and get them to adopt the principles of a $1 Million Business Owner, what would they like to say to them? And here's kind of what they shared. Number one answer: when the month starts out poorly, don't give up. You got to protect your mindset. Don't let yourself get in the ditch. Great practical advice, right? Next answer, which, wow, this one was powerful, was very candid. She said, stop being a victim and blaming the circumstances, blaming other people, blaming your manager, blaming your promotion, blaming your competition. Just stop. Stop being a victim. In every scenario of your life, stop being a victim. Wow. I'm just going to let that one ride because I think that's self-explanatory. But it's a lot of victims out here in RSA land. But in business owner land, there are no victims. You'll never make the transition from RSA to business owner if you have a victim mentality. Third answer that we received on this, what you'd like to shake somebody and ask them or tell them to help get them on track. And that was this. This gentleman said, are the stories that you're telling yourself serving you well? How does it serve you well to tell yourself, I'm not outgoing, so I just can't sell like that? How does it serve you to tell yourself the only reason that he or she is successful is because managers favor him or her? How does it serve you to tell yourself that calling and texting customers is likely annoying, so I really just don't do it? It doesn't really work anyway. How does that serve you? How does it serve you to tell yourself it feels pushy to bring up mattresses or protection, so I'm hesitant to do so for fear of alienating my customers? How does that story serve you? How does it serve you to grandstand your excuse for the last up not buying to your teammates? For example, can you believe they just came in to kill time while their car was being repaired? It's as if you're looking for validation from your team as to why you couldn't sell them. How do those stories serve you? We all tell ourselves stories. This is some high level concepts here, but we all tell ourselves stories. What stories are we telling ourselves, and how are those stories serving to move us closer to the accomplishment of our why? How are these stories serving us? In most cases, the stories aren't serving us at all. They're debilitating us. And so this is incredible, life-changing type results. Hey, so much more to share, but I just would encourage anybody on here that maybe has stores with million-dollar owners, business owners, billion-dollar writers, whatever you want to call them. Take time and help to leverage what they know to indoctrinate the team. It was emotional, honestly, for me to hear from these folks because of the level of maturity, the level of care they had to share with the team. They weren't protective of their information and their success. They desperately wanted to share a nugget of wisdom that could change the trajectory of someone else's professional career forever. And to work with people like that is one of the most gratifying parts of my job. And I hope that you'll be able to take some of the wisdom from this and improve your own sales performance and the team maybe that you lead. Have a great day.